right. Randomness. So this, I pulled this up because I actually use it a fair amount with different things. It was it's a good example of like importing a module and doing something with it, right? So the randomizing numbers, randomizing sequences, picking random things, they're all really useful and common tasks. And so in Python we have a module called random, and if you want to use it, you can just use import random. So if we were writing a piece of code in a script, we put it at the top. I'll show you that in a second, but for now I'm just going to do it in the interpreter. So import random, and now random exists in this interpreter's what we call namespace. Okay, so you've seen dir before. It's actually useful for showing you what's about. So if you look here, I've got a, b, c, count, I, mylist, output, t, and val, which are all the variables I was using earlier, and I also have random. And if I did help on then one of these, so if I did help on A, it shows me help on lists, and I can use page up and down, and I can use Q to quit because A is a list. If I wanted help on the random module, I can type help random, and I get the documentation for the random module. I can use page up and down. I can also search. So while I've got this little colon here, I can use / this one, and then type something in. So if I wanted to find something about integers, I do that. And if I want to search again, just / and enter and take me to it, so you can see there it is.
So cool.
It's
I'm
really
I'm
nice.
a heathen. I use the internet for all of my document searches.
And so if you wanted to look for like normal distributed random variables, you can do it very easily. So normal variate, you probably don't care about these things at the moment, but at some point you might do. They're in there, and searching through the documentation is really useful. And Q to quit. So there's a bunch of stuff that we can do. I'm going to take you through some of it now. The first thing I want to talk about is seeds. Okay, so you can seed the random number generator. Okay, so what this means is it's a starting point for the random number generator. So if I did random dot seed like this, it just goes right. Restart the random number generator from some random position, and then all the random numbers that come out will be somehow related to that seed. Okay, but we can't really easily work backwards to how it is. So if you imagine this is like if you could predict all of the rolls of a dice, this is the starting point for that dice, and if you change the starting point, it would change all the rolls that you get afterwards. Anyone that plays Minecraft probably has a gut feeling for what this does, because it's quite explicit in that game, and a few other things like that. So if I did random now, which is probably the most basic thing that we might want to do, it's the next one on my list as well. We get this number, and every time I call it, we get another number between 0 and 1. Right now, it's 0 up to but not including 1, and the same thing with all the things that we've done so far. It's always from the first thing up to but not including the second. So you could get 0 out of it, but you'll never get 1 out of it. And just as an aside, in maths we write this as 0, 1, like that. Okay, so it looks odd, but that bracket means we go from the thing on the left, and this thing means you go up to the thing on the right. If we were going up to and including, it would look like this, and if it was from but not including, it would look like that, although I don't know of any situation where I've ever written that. Anyway, that's just if you ever see it written down. So I think it might even be in here. Yeah, so
We've got a question about random.seed and what does it do?
well, that's exactly what I'm in the middle of explaining. So don't worry, we'll get there.
There it is.
Did it tell you?
There it is.
Can you see it?
Yeah, seed, top one.
Oh yeah, no, I was looking for the range random.random. There we go. The interval. There you go. See how it's written? Okay, so random.random, and it comes out with these things. If I do random.seed, it'll then restart the random numbers. Okay, and we get another sequence of random numbers. But, and this is why I wanted to talk about it. If I put in a number here, and then did random.random, we get a sequence of random numbers. Now watch what happens if I start with the seed 1, 2, 3 again. Random, 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 random. 0.05, sorry, yeah, 0.05, blah, 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 0.08, 0.4, 0.05, 0.08, 0.4. It restarted the sequence from the same point. Okay, so the same seed will lead to the same sequence of numbers, which then you might be thinking, that's not random at all, is it? And the answer is no, it's not. It is pseudo-random. And there's actually, go back to the help. It's not actually in there, so maybe you have to go to the full documentation. But it should. Should give you a warning. There we go. The pseudo-random generators of this module should not be used for security purposes. Okay, so I'm not going to tell you why, because it's actually your question for the week, your thing to ponder is, why are random numbers important? What use do they have in security? I mean, it literally mentions security purposes there. And why is that warning so important? Why is there a warning about the random numbers and the quality of randomness that you get? Okay. Right, so just to recap, the seed starts off the random number generator, and we can set it just like this, random seed with nothing. And what it'll do is it'll use some method, probably just the current number of milliseconds past the hour or something like that, to restart the random number generator. So if you want something that appears random, that's a good way to do it. If you wanted to actually have a sequence that you can then repeat for testing purposes, so you want to make sure that you get the same thing, or like in Minecraft, you want to have exactly the same starting point and everything generates the same as another setup, you use the same seed. Okay, so that's where we use the seed. Okay, you've also seen random.random, which is your floating point number. In lots of languages, you get this kind of function. If you wanted something between like 0 and 10, what you do is you just multiply that by 10, and if you wanted an integer, you'd use int, and you'd basically be able to get integers, 0 and 10, not including the 10. But in Python, we don't need to do that, okay? Because it's so common that we want to pick a random integer, not just get a random number between 0 and 1 and multiply it by our maximum number to get somewhere in between, that we actually have random.randint, which takes in two numbers. So we put 0 and 1, we just get 0 and 1, which is quite handy. We have to do like true or false things like that. Or if we put in a larger number, you get these. Okay, and that's why when I showed you the documentation, when we have the range, it now has both square brackets. That actually means from A up to and including B. All right, that's why I wanted to point that out. Okay, so that's useful. But we also have some other stuff that's in there. There's actually loads of stuff. You've seen the help. But the couple of other things I think are really useful is choice and shuffle. All right, so let's go back to our lists. That's all right, let's make a new one. Numbers all in order. We can sort, we can reverse, we can do things, but we can also now use random to shuffle them. So random.shuffle shuffles everything. Okay, so it's fixed. We can shuffle it again. Notice that it's changing the contents of the list, not creating a new version that's shuffled. All right, so it's actually doing it in place. It doesn't return a shuffled version. It just shuffles what it's given. And that's kind of handy. Obviously, it's very easy to fix that. What about if we had a list and we wanted to randomly select items from it? Okay, well there, what we do is use random.choice. And we give it the list. Sorry, just type in what I'm saying rather than what I mean. So random choice A, we get set. Just picking random things. They're all still there. We still have the same sequence. if we wanted to use it, I use this quite a lot for generating random stuff. So it's kind of handy. You put stuff in there and you say, well, I want a random one of these, but I don't want to keep reusing it. I want to pick from there. What you do is you do something like B equals random.choice from A, and then B is now equal to say 81, and A dot remove B, and now we should have a gap at 81, so 80, 82. Yep, there's the gap, and you can see that B is what's in there. So if we wanted to put it back, do A dot append B, and there it is. It's been put back on the end. So you can operate on lists quite well using these kinds of tools. There are plenty of things you can use. All the other stuff that's in there. Like I said, you can do help random. You can use this to search. So if you want to look choose random element from an empty list, so that pulls the stuff out. Let's do it not with the object. Choice based on sequence. Choices does something much more complicated. So this one essentially samples from a population. So you give it the list, you give it some weights. It says method of random instance, return a k size list of a population, blah blah blah. So what you're doing is you're pulling out a certain number. Let's just try choices. So at the moment we get a list that contains one item. It doesn't pull them out. It just so they're all still there, just like before. But we get a list, and the reason we get a list is because we can say I want 10 of them. Okay, and now we get 10 of them, and I get a different or randomly generated 10 each time. Okay. So that's the randomness stuff, and it is handy. It's handy just for making things not always the same. It's handy for putting things together. We recently put together a little. It's not really a CTF. It's more of an awareness thing leading up to a webinar that we're doing. So I forgot what I called it. Let me think. There we go. So this is a randomly generated sequence of people, and what we do is you have a list of forenames, a list of surnames, and then each time we use one, so you randomly pick them and then you remove it from the list, which means you don't get that constant overlapping. Well, it could be like a million Joe Smiths. There's only going to be one Joe and one person whose surname is Smith and things like that. So it's useful in things like this.